Good morning, dear students. I, Dr. Suruchi Upadhyay, Assistant Professor, Department of English, D.A.V. PG College, Siwan, is going to take up another topic that is prescribed in your syllabus, Keki and Daruwala. The name of the poem is The Professor Condoles. Now, in this particular PPT, I have taken up your entire poem that will give you a clear understanding of the text, as well as in the end of the slide, I have mentioned the comments about the poem in brief. The poem starts with a note of a pathos, and it distinguishes between what are pathos and tragedy in a simpler concept. It talks about a day-to-day activity that takes place in one's life, that is accident. The poem starts with a death of an 11-year-old boy who is being badly mutilated by a car. This is the entire text of the poem, and the professor, he is offering condolences to the dear one of the dead boy. Now, this accident is without a design, and it has affected the brother of the boy a lot. The opening lines of the poem is dramatic in the context that it shows a certain sense of an action, that a poet is talking to someone and someone is listening to. The poem talks of the tragedy in the modern day-to-day life, that what tragedy is in today's context. It has a note of a subjectivity, a touch of a personal note where one can identify easily. The poem shows that nowadays world has turned and accepted absurdity and accidents as the normal part of one's life. The language of the poem is easy to understand and it is conversational. The poem has a note of an irony too. No doubt the loss of our dear ones is irreparable, and with this the poet has used skillful use of language to communicate the emotions with clarity. There is a use of powerful punctuation marks, and when one reads the poem, a clear image of the sufferer comes in our mind. In a very simpler term, the poet describes us that what is tragedy. As when we talks about tragedy, we reminds of Aristotle's Poetics when he defines that tragedy is, it has an element of suffering, and that suffering brings a purgation and so on. In the similar context, the French dramatist Jean Onelot, in his work Antigone, what is reflected that the tragedy is clean, it has clear in design, it has clarity in its design. It is restful, means when you read it, you have restlessness of your emotions, and it is, you cannot point out that this is a mistake, because in tragedy one is bound to suffer. Now, the work of this French dramatist reflected that natural studies of our present, or rather that time's corrupt world. He simply points out that in tragedy one is going to suffer, and these lines are from his drama Antigone. The stanzas of the poem are of unequal devotion. Thank you very much.